Benvenuti listeners and welcome back to the Anglo-Italian Connection Football Podcast. I'm Tommaso Adami.
And I'm Ruairi Criscuolo.
And we don't know if you've ever been to Milan, but when it rains, it pours and it sucks.
Guys, it feels like I'm back in Manchester. I feel like I'm at home.
Doesn't it? I mean, it's a beautiful city, but when it's wet and gloomy, it's just awful.
It changes so quick. Honestly, last week I was walking to work in a t-shirt. Now it's jacket and scarf. What the hell happened?
Fall has arrived.
Yeah.
How are you doing, Rory?
I'm good. I had a good start to the day. Refreshed my podcast app and found a lovely little surprise from the Totally Football show.
What was it?
A nice 45-minute interview with the genius that is Arsene Wenger.
That's going to be quite a treat for you,
Oh,
right?
mate, honestly, I could listen to him talk forever. And mates of mine I know will be saying now, but Rory, you were happy when he was sacked, and I was happy when he left. But I still think there's very few people in the world of football who are as articulate, interesting, and as eloquent as that man. And some of the views some of the opinions he expressed on the show, talking about his time at Arsenal and his views on football, were really interesting. Some of the ideas he's come with about how he can change the game in his new job at FIFA in development of football were quite interesting in regards to getting rid of throw-ins. So within your own half, you would be able to kick the ball in. Mm-hmm. And with free kicks, being able to take them quickly. Because he made quite a good point about when you get a free kick, it gives an advantage to the other team.
Yeah.
Because they get time to set and find their shape. But if you take it quickly, there's no advantage for the other team. So it's quite as...
Trent Alexander-Arnold knows something about that. Yeah.
Him and Wenger are like, he must have said something to him. But I think that's why they've put him in the job. He thinks of the game in a different way. And I think, honestly, even if you're not an Arsenal fan, I think you can listen to it for 45 minutes and you will be fascinated throughout. So, yeah, that was a great start to my day. Anyway, Tommy, how have you been?
I've been pretty well. Pretty happy that Lukaku and Eriksen went off during the international break, but more on that very soon with our Euroreview, when we'll be talking about the Nations League explained, because it's not easy to understand all the time.
Yeah, we're all confused by it, I think.
And we're coming up also with the previews for this weekend's football, which is going to be pretty intense.
I can't wait for the Premier League to come back.
This is coming up in 3 seconds, guys. Stay tuned.
Right after this. Welcome, listeners. It's that time of the week again for our Euro review. So, Tommy, we've had a Nations League break. What the hell is going on?
Well, we had to make some research about this because we weren't very straight about what's going on with the Nations League. So the Nations League is a tournament that started 2 years ago, officially to replace friendly matches with an official competition where every match counts, which is the fun part about it. But you might be confused because there was a UEFA Euro 2020 qualifying group stage that already happened. And right now in the Nations League, there are still teams that are trying to qualify for Euro 2020. So the teams that are already qualified for Euro 2020 in alphabetical order, thanks to the UEFA.com website.
Deep breath.
Are Austria, Belgium, Croatia, Czech Republic, Denmark, England, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Poland, Portugal, Russia, Spain, Sweden, Switzerland, Turkey, Ukraine, and Wales. That was a long list. There are still teams like Kosovo, Bulgaria, Serbia, Northern Ireland, Belarus, Republic of Ireland, Georgia, Slovakia, Hungary, Norway, interesting team to look at, Romania, and North Macedonia, Slovenia, Israel, Iceland, Scotland, Bosnia and Herzegovina trying to qualify.
Is there a North Macedonia now? I didn't know that was a thing.
The official name was Former Yugoslavian Republic of Macedonia. Okay. I don't know if they've changed the name.
I apologize for any Macedonians out there for my ignorance.
Looking at this list, I was pretty surprised. Europe, quite a small continent, full of countries, right?
A lot of countries, right?
But yeah, so the Nations League is especially useful right now for these teams that are still trying to qualify, while the other teams, they can grant a higher seed in the group stage of the Euro 2020 / 2021
/ 2022. Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you think is / 2022?
Well, I can't see it taking place, but also if it does, I can't see it taking place in the format that they've planned, right? So,
which was a pretty good format.
I loved it when it first came out. Like, me and the boys at home were planning which city we were going to go to, maybe do a few different cities for weekends. Such a great idea. Share it around the continent. More people can watch it. But obviously, with the current climate, you can't do that anymore. There's no way you can have thousands, hundreds of thousands of people moving from city to city. It just seems unfeasible to me. So then, if they are going to hold it, where are they going to hold it? What country could they turn around to realistically and say, tomorrow you need to host an international tournament?
Yeah.
Right? They need to start coming up with a backup plan, or you just say, look, I'm sorry we've played the games, but we just can't do the tournament. I think this international break has highlighted how irresponsible it is to have these international games.
Yeah, it's pretty controversial if you think about it. In the middle of a global pandemic, right now in Italy, we're having new measures, pretty strict measures about the people.
In the UK, it's getting even stricter. Like
we can have a whole podcast about the situation in the UK because it's pretty. I mean, it's not hilarious, but how the government has handled it is pretty strange to say the least.
I would say like a maverick approach.
But also the fact that right now these games are being played is pretty controversial. The only thing that I can see happening is a sort of bubble-like competition like they did for the UEFA Champions League playoff stage, the past edition.
It's like similar to what they did in the NBA and UFC, right? They've got Fight Island for the UFC, right?
Yeah. In the NBA, it was in Orlando, Florida. They had this bubble. The teams were in there with the players. They couldn't see their families nor anything.
Well, exactly. And this is like for teams like Wolves, when all your players come from one country, you can have a problem.
Namely
like
Portugal.
Exactly. Ronaldo's tested positive, and now their squad, most of them, well, not most of them, a lot of them could be put into quarantine now. So I think, again, it highlights... I think there's going to be a lot of club teams annoyed at UEFA that they've let this go through.
Yeah, absolutely. We do not want this to happen, but the question is arising, especially after almost the entirety of a team, Genoa in Italy, tested positive for COVID. Is it worth playing the season? Don't get me wrong. I want football to be happening. This podcast wouldn't be a thing without it. A lot of people depend on football. We love the game. We love watching games, but in the current situation, is it worth risking so much? And let's not forget that the majority of players who test positive, there is, in the end, they heal from the virus. Of course,
they're incredibly physically fit.
But there is a percentage of risk, which we should not overlook, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the season's going to be kind of staggered. I feel like there's going to be a lot of postponed games, rearranged games, a lot of asterisks next to wins, right? Yeah. Juventus have already got one asterisk next to a win, right?
Well, yeah, and Napoli also they were removed 1 point because of what they did.
Harsh.
Because they didn't show up. In case you didn't follow the story, they didn't show up in Turin to play the game. I think in the end the decision to give Juventus the win is correct. To detract 1 point from Naples, not so sure.
It just feels like an extra kick in the nuts for Napoli, really. I think it's...
And an extra pat on the back for Juventus.
It's just Juventus getting their own way again.
But
anyway, before we go down that rabbit hole...
Yeah. Going back to the international break, quite a few interesting games, right, Rory?
Yeah, well, I'm going to start off with England. Mm-hmm. So the last time we were talking about the Nations League, we talked about how England won all their games, but played not very impressively. Now, this time, they've still continued to not play impressively, but the results haven't come. So we beat Belgium 2-1 in quite a fortunate win. A very fluky late goal from Mason Mount got us that win despite Belgium dominating. But last night we lost to Denmark. Harry Maguire. Now, it's like a Greek tragedy watching the last year of this guy's career, life. I feel very sorry for the guy. I do.
Do you, Rory?
I do. I
like saying something
the guy.
Different before we started recording.
The guy. I think at Leicester he was very good. Anyone who plays for United, I'm not really going to like. But I feel like, I want him to do well. But it seems like when it rains, it pours. And he got sent off half an hour in after two very bad tackles. The first tackle should have been a red card. Two tackles with studs up. Just, I don't know if it's lazy or just not concentrating or stupidity or panic. I don't know what it is. But then after that, England were never really in the game. Kyle Walker gave away a stupid penalty. Eriksson tucked it away. And then it was game over.
However, I got to say, if we look at the last official games, not friendlies, that England have played, we've got one loss, 3 wins, and 1 draw. That's not
exactly.
bad.
This is what I was about to come on to. So there's a lot of like hashtag Southgate out was trending last night, right? And this is part of what I don't like about England fans, right? At the 2018 World Cup, there was no expectation, and it was amazing, right? But after that now, all the expectations come back, the ridiculous expectations. He's lost one game in a year, and people are asking him to be out. Now, I disagree with some of his negative team selection. I think against Belgium, he started 5 right-backs. Like, it is very, very negative tactics. But I think he knows how to coach a system, and he knows... He's doing very well with the team. It feels like
there is a project.
Exactly. And I think
the FA have got, they sat down and they said, all right, we need to have a long-term project. And I feel like Southgate is doing all right.
Yeah, I feel like it would be the FA going back to old habits if they just sacked him now, right? So I really hope they stick with him. But anyway, going back to the game, after the final whistle, Reece James was then sent off for arguing with the referee, or there's some disciplinary matter at the end. And it kind of sums up this lack of discipline that's in the England camp at the moment that I think Gareth Southgate needs to kind of stamp out quite quickly. We had the Foden and Greenwood issues, right? Trippier and Chilwell were sent home because of betting. There was an investigation into bets, I think 2 years ago. So they've had to go back. Now these 2 red cards. I don't think it's anything Southgate's doing wrong. I just think he needs to stamp out this problem quick.
Do you think England have a shot at Euro 2021/2022?
I think as much as England always think they've got a chance, we've got a chance. We've got a very exciting attacking lineup, and the defence, if we can decide if it's going to be a back 3 or a back 4, if we can stick to a system, then I think maybe we've got a chance. But with the other squads that we're now going to look at, I think the competition is quite fierce.
So Ruairi and I identified the teams that could eventually claim the trophy next year as things stand right now. Some of the names we have are Italy, France, Portugal, I'm not saying them in order, England, Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium. These 3 we are very unsure about. And then there is a what the fuck spot for Spain, because we don't really understand what's going on with Spain at the moment. But I'll start from Italy. If we consider official games, Italy haven't lost a single game in 16 games. That's a pretty big stat. If we consider the last 5 games, if every game was worth 3 points, we have 9 points out of 15, which is not that great, and we have drawn the last 2. I think Italy's biggest concern right now is finding a good, reliable, prolific striker. That seems to be the biggest problem for the Azzurri at the moment.
Well, I think this has been a problem for Italy for a while. Like, who would you say was the last prolific striker that Italy had, really? That you would be like, they will score every game, every other game.
I don't know, because that's always been a problem with Italy. Even Totti, many times he didn't show up for Italy. Del Piero missed an absolute sitter in Euro 2000. We don't want to remember that against France. I mean, that seems to be an ongoing storyline in Italy's history, the prolific striker. But here is when my idea comes in. Bring Caputo to Euro 21/2022. Yes. Because I feel like Italy have always had that one player, that one underrated player that really showed up at big tournaments. Okay. In 2006, Grosso, he wasn't even supposed to be in the squad. Fabio Grosso, he won us the World Cup. I think Caputo could be the one that is motivated enough and willing enough to take that job, that responsibility for Italy.
It's like almost an unknown quantity for the other national teams, right? Someone that they haven't been able to scout, or someone they're not quite sure of.
Exactly.
And he's, a nice ace in the pocket kind of thing. Yeah, from what I've seen of him in Serie A, he's very effective.
Our defense seems pretty solid. I think we have a very good manager. Roberto Mancini is doing a hell of a job right now. The thing is that we just need, these 2 draws. These 2 draws against Poland and the Netherlands, they could have been wins. We conceded in both games. There needs to be done something about mentality, I believe.
Well, talking of non-prolific strikers, in the game against the Netherlands, Immobile missed an absolute sitter. Yeah. And I think, obviously, he won Capocannoniere last year, so he knows how to find the net. But there's still something about him I don't quite trust when he's through on goal. I don't think he's quite ruthless enough. I don't know.
Yeah, I wish we had a Griezmann or a Mbappe. That's why I think
don't we all?
Yeah, that's why I think that we both think that France are top of the table for potential candidates to lift the trophy together with Portugal. So if we consider